83 general inquiries this month.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay, so you have 83 calls, most likely, because over 60 seconds, over 60 seconds, over 67. It's not over 60 seconds, over 67, over 60 seconds, over 67. Okay, cool. So one out of this page here that I just looked at would not have been a lead. This was all leads. So the PPC team or whoever is like high-fiving each other, like, look at all these phone calls, and the client's now pissed off. And you guys haven't talked yet. Client's like, God, I'm gonna fire this agency. They keep sending me this junk traffic. We're over here like, yeah, 12% conversion rate.
Yeah, exactly. 20% conversion rate. CPC is so low. We're so good. Exactly.
Yeah. Hop on the call and be like, hey, Caden, guess what? And he's like, you're fired.
And be like, what happened?
Yeah, that's happened to me a few times, which is why it no longer does. Now, 83 is not too bad. When you're looking at this, because if we apply
that's
filters,
a lot of calls though, depending on ad spend, obviously, but
yeah, it's 821 phone calls, so there's a lot of activity here. But okay, this is just the general inquiries, not the disconnected. It's not the hangups, not the repeat phone calls. Like that was just one of them. We have, what about voicemail? That is another one that we use as well. I think where's voicemail? I just saw it. Well, I forget where I just saw it, but it was or like incomplete call. Like there's basically, this is all done by hand, no audio. Well, crap. So there's a lot of different variations that we can put in here, but I basically don't really look at anything else besides like no answers. No answers. Those are huge. We almost got fired because of no answers. And now we have answered everywhere. Like, oh, there it is. There's some no answers, but that's at 5:22 a.m. So who cares?
Yeah. Well, that's a really common problem too. I want to point that out.
I'm not going to glaze over it. That's exactly right. Go ahead. I'll have you. I keep bogarting the whole conversation. So sorry.
No, you're good. I just think that that's one of the biggest like disconnects that I see whenever it comes to like marketing and sales is like, you might have like really good marketing and a really good sales team, but like the person picking up the phone is just not answering the phone, or like there's something going on their end that they're just unable to pick up. Like, even if it's like a time-based thing, right? Like they're only open, like say like 8 hours a day and people are calling after hours. You need to get an offshore VA or someone to at least take the information down, or at least do a follow-up right away so they feel like the process is moving. Because if people miss a call or if there's no answer, they're just going to jump to the next company and you just wasted ad spend because they're probably going to go with that other company because they picked up their phone. So it's one of those things where you can have like the midpoint, I would say, is probably the biggest risk when it comes to running ads and not having this. I've actually have clients that don't have tracking software, and they'll use my call tracking metrics, and their team will go and actually rate the calls and follow up with them based on all that information.
Yeah.
Which is nice for me, but it's also nice for them because they get to hear and listen to their calls, and they can rate their sales team just to see what's going on, and make sure that, they're actually picking up the phone. So it adds accountability to it, and it saves you, especially from those scenarios that are out of your control, by just proving it.
It's exactly right. And I think that those types of situation is worth so much more than I think people realize. Those type of conversations when you're talking about, hey, did you know that your front end staff is not picking up the phone? Like we have 48 calls this month. They only answered 20 of them. We have 8 that went unanswered. Your average cost per lead, regardless of if they answer or not, is $100. So basically $2,800 worth of paid for leads left. And if each lead is worth $500, you lost, $16,000, whatever it is. So those type of figures, when you know your metrics, they're worth so much more to the client. And most of the time it's because they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that. Or, oh, I have to get that. Like they came in like ready to tear you a new one. And then you're like, hey, before we start, I just want to call something out. Did you know that blah? Like, okay. So when you can be in a different state, knowing that their front end receptionist that is 6 feet away from them is not doing their job, your value to that that client or to that business is up tenfold. You might have just saved them 6 months worth of headache. Like we have we have no idea if that was something that we, stopped before it got worse, kind of thing.
Well, and that's the bottleneck potentially that's holding them back from scaling up too, right? They're like, oh, we're like such a good business. We have all these great reviews, but we just can't get past this certain like point of like, our leads are just too expensive. We just need to keep hiring another agency, or another in-house team when they're trying to jump around and figure out what the solution is by not looking at the connection point between the two things.
Right. Exactly. And so that's it's always those kind of issues that kind of come up or come to a head that I think is super important for proper lead generation, ads management to get right from the beginning. It's super important. Okay, so now that we know that here, let's talk about the triggers for a moment. So because we've used a binary method of measurement,
And binary meaning
okay,
thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, or one
yeah,
star,
sorry.
5 star.
Yeah, I was like, why isn't it going today? But I forgot I still have my filter on for like the last 30 days. So it's not going to include today. Okay, cool. So anyway, so now that we have this is the binary. If it's not a lead that has what I would consider and what the client or what our client agrees is that if they don't have the intent and purpose to do business with you, it is not a lead. It's intent and purpose. You can have one without the other and not generate a lead, but you cannot have both. So its intent and purpose is your line of demarcation, your binary between 5-star call or better luck next time. The intent is, hey, Caden, I need, sorry, not the intent. I need purpose. Hey, Caden, I need PPC. Oh, okay. Yeah. Is that a lead? Not yet. There's purpose. The purpose for the call is I need PPC. Now, if we have a phone call and it's like, yeah, you know what? I may actually just keep my team right now. You're kind of expensive, but let me give you a call back. That's a general inquiry. There is no intent to do business with you.
Yeah.
So that's it. So I can have a purpose, but if the intent isn't there, like I need PPC and I want to go, I'm interested in working with you. Aha, purpose and intent. It's almost like, what's the barrier to threshold for first degree murder? It's like premeditated. Like, it's like all that stuff is basically the
What a correlation.
I know. I got to see who's sleeping out there watching these videos.
Dangerous.
So, right. So those are the ways that we kind of look at something to say, is this something that is intent and purpose? If so, yeah, there's a service inquiry about waterproofing or people booked an appointment. Great. Now with the automations, the reason why is only 1 or 5 is because we have our trigger set up that way. So this one is from obviously a previous agency, but it was my brainchild, so I'm still going to use it. But so the trigger here essentially says it's we called this, it's an internal 5-star call GADS conversion. So this means that when we see a 5-star call, that triggers. The trigger is whenever sale data is updated for any activity, that's the score. Then run all tracking numbers. So it's running through the entirety of all the channels, Meta, Google, Facebook, Organic Direct, doesn't matter. All of them will just have the same trigger. And if all of the following rules match, score equals 5-star. Then perform the following actions of Google Ads conversion. And it's ran 16 times in the last 7 days. Cool. So we have 16 new leads. That's all that means. This is your actual lead flow right here. How many runs did that happen this week? So 16, probably booked appointments.
So that will show up in Google too.
Yep. And so that's exactly what happens. Now, this means that as soon as I say, wow, that was a great call, and I listen to it and I say 5 stars, that 5 stars goes in the tracking stores of your Google Ads and your ads extensions. So now you're using multiple sources, multiple channels inside the source, like Google Ads and ad extensions. This is just the Google Ads integration. But anything that would happen from that Google Ads call then goes through the Google Ads conversion of, okay, our online conversion is online call tracking. The call only conversion is call only call tracking. So inside of the account, we can see, aha, yes, you've had a call that came to your website or that came to you through your website online. Or, aha, you had a call that came to you from the call tracking, which is the calls from ads. You can label this whatever you want. This is just what we agreed upon that the client likes. Cool. It's a free form that you get to type in essentially. So we get to now have not a 60-second threshold from all of our calls from the calls from ads, but now it has to be reviewed first. The big shift here is that this is worth 100 clients to us. This is one of our main differentiators. Like if you imagine this in a sales pitch, it's like if you see a call in Google Ads and it shows that there was a conversion there, rest assured my team has reviewed it, marked it 5 stars, sent it into Google Ads because they had the intent and purpose of doing business with you. It's kind of better than a form fill at that point.
Oh, 100%. I mean, we'll probably get into form fills in a second, but I think I think that's something that you could still even sell right now, because like there's a lot of agencies that are like talking about like rating calls and like building out CRM software for you to like build around the whole process. But like not many are doing that. Like
Mhm.
there's still a small amount of people that are doing that, and a lot of businesses don't really fully understand it either.
Right.
And so there's a lot of opportunity there. Like you're saying, like it was the main sales pitch at the previous agency. Like it makes sense, you know. You're
Yeah.
rating only good calls, sending that over in a whole new, audience pool that a lot of other people aren't capitalizing on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. And what's really interesting about this whole thing is that is it's almost as easy now as e-commerce when you're talking about like for phone calls. It's a lot more work. You can offshore it. You can use it for, or you can pay very little for it. Not saying go cheap and hurt people with money, but like, their price that they tell us is like at $5 an hour. It's like done. Like if you work 2 hours a day, great.
Yeah.
You just listen to phone calls. If you're a smaller, if you're a freelancer, if you're not trying to manage, 100 calls a day from clients that are spending 50 G's a day kind of thing, like, yeah, it becomes a lot easier. But the level of service and that you provide a methodology is very, very upscale. It's ivory tower agencies type of stuff that you can offshore for $5 an hour.
Yeah.
That's a
Literally.
level up. Yeah. Now imagine going to a client and then saying, does the other people that I'm competing against listen every single phone call and manually import it automatically from all of your call sources in Google Ads? No. Okay, well, right then and there, you have that leg up. If you look at an account and say, I see 237 calls from ads this week. How many were good? Clients can be like, oh, I have no idea. Let me talk to somebody. And I never hear from them. It's just your day-to-day management is so much easier to the account. I already know what's going on. I know how many booked appointments they have. I know the revenue that they made from it. I know that they didn't answer their phone. I know that their front end receptionist is poor or excellent. I know all this stuff. The other flip side of this, you ever run a competitive campaign in search?
Oh yeah. Well, it's been a little bit, but yeah, technically I'm running a couple right now. One account that we both are on.
Yep.
Yeah, some in the agency as well too that we're, scaling up surprisingly, but it's a little scary.
It is. And everyone watching this video now today, like, are you running a call campaign for any sort of like lead generation clients? Like if any time that you're doing a a competitive campaign for lead generation clients, if you are bidding on competitors, or if you're even getting search terms from competitors, you're running broad match, and Barry's tree trimming service search term got us a lead for A1 tree service. We probably have that.
Probably.
We probably have a ton of that, and that we probably want that. And we've told the client that, and they've agreed to it, and they actually like it, and they think it's a good idea. Thank you. And sorry, they like it, they agree to it, and they think it's a good idea. Did anybody tell the receptionist?
No, they just picked up the phone.
You know what's so funny? I've seen inside of the call tracking ecosystem so many instances where a phone call has come in. Sorry, this thing's tangled up on me again. Sorry.
I want to also point out real quick too, that if you're like a doctor and you're targeting competitor terms, it's probably not going to work as well.
Yeah.
Versus if you're a home service, because they're going to go to their same doctor most likely. So just throwing that out there, that it depends on what niche you're in, as to how good the competitor campaign is going to do.
Yep. The thing though is, as an example, you run a competitive campaign and it's for a dentist office. And someone says, hey, yeah, I'd like to schedule an appointment. Oh, okay, cool. You'd like to see Dr. Steven? No, I'm trying to go to Melissa. Melissa's always the one that is my dentist. Oh, we don't actually have a Melissa here. Oh, who were you trying to call? I was trying to call Coca-Cola Dentistry. Oh, you called Barry's Dentistry. Hold on, let me get the number for you. I have heard that phone call 1,000 times in my life.
That's so true. I didn't even realize. I mean, I have, but I haven't realized that. I know exactly where we're going with this. Yeah.
That has happened 1,000 times in my life. Like, I have heard that, and it's so funny because I'm like, holy shit. Like,
there it goes. Send it away.
I expected the client to be like, hey, if you get some phone calls from competitors, like, I'm like, no, of course not. But I'm like, hey, Kate, I'm gonna run some competitive campaigns. All right, sounds good. That's it. That was the furthest we've discussed that entire thing. Like now my day is like, hey, I'm going to start generating phone calls. I'm going to start to spend a small amount of money, $20 a day. I'm going to listen to 5 or 6 of them. And if your receptionist takes your money and sends that lead to the place where they originally wanted to go, instead of stealing it away from competitors like we can, I'm going to let you know. Like, we're going to know that immediately. And that is a huge leg up. And it's every single business, local or not local. I mean, if you're running a competitive campaign for lead generation and no one told the person who's answering the phone, oh God.
And you can't prove it.
So funny.
I don't have the software either.
Right.
By the way, I'm not affiliated with the software either. I'm just throwing it out. This is literally what we use. I don't know if you are, but I'm not. And like, it's if you don't have any way to prove that XYZ is happening, then the client's going to be like, well, I know my in-house team. I don't know. Like, you just came in like a couple months ago, kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's what's so like infuriating too, is like, it's easily fixable. And we assume that our client is a fantastic business owner. That's not always the case. Maybe
great service provider though.
Yeah, maybe they're like, hey, I got 16 things to do today, and blah 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 blah, and all the reasons A, B, and C and D as to why this didn't happen. But you were my ad manager. You were supposed to be watching this. So that's one of the things that is, if nothing else, that is a big benefit to doing call tracking. Now, let's move on to another point that I think I do this type quite typically, and I'm doing it also now again for another client. I don't
talking about importing.
No. Hold on. I'm sorry. Give me a minute.
No worries. I think so. I guess I want to cover one thing real quick as well. Maybe take a minute. So one of the other things as well too is like you have forms, you have chats, you have all these other areas that you can sort of optimize to get more leads from and increase the quality or decrease it. Mm-hmm. I like forms in the sense of they're more automated. So you can like change, for example, asking a question on the form that qualifies the customer more, and then, have that be sort of your filter, or you can have a further filter like you're doing with call tracking metrics, where, you have when person A or lead A moves to step 2 in the pipeline, then that gets imported as a conversion. But the issue with that is always volume. And you have to make sure that the team is actually getting enough movement for that to happen in the first place. Yes. I find that that's a bigger barrier to entry than just rating a call like 5-star.
No, that makes that's a good point. It's a good call out too. I don't know if I still have access to this.
Yeah, no worries. And I think also when it comes to chats, like I always see chats being like a really big volume like increaser just across the board. We've been able to like scale that up by only importing off of chats and not using, just the general conversion action, like a thank you page for a chat form. And that's worked. The only issue is you just have to go through the barrier of, okay, we're starting basic on the form. Qualified, no, yes, okay, we need to get more. Qualified, okay, add something to the form, and slowly kind of grow your barriers until you find that best performance when it comes to like, out of 10 calls, 8 of them are qualified. We're okay with that. Versus out of 10 calls, 1 of them is qualified, kind of thing. Yeah. You might find too that you're paying less for the 10 and you're getting a qualified lead for a lot less, even though the ratio is like, 10 to 1. You might be paying so little for those 10 that maybe it's even better than like the 8 to 10 or 8 out of 10. So it's all just ratios. I'm trying to figure out what's working the best versus not. And a lot of that, with forms, it's a lot easier to do. But when it comes to the calls, it's more about like the sales team and who's answering. So it's a little bit of a different way to look at it from that perspective.